Right. Let's keep rolling. It looks like this is going to be a shorter clip than usual for some reason. Well, guess that just means I'll be uploading it faster. Anyway, let's go after the bastard who managed to steal something right out from under our noses. Should I bother asking why there's a chocobo forest on an island where there's no real need for us to mount one to get anywhere faster? Hell, part of me is tempted to ask why this game decided to have chocobos at all. But then I tend to ask that question in most of the games in this franchise anyway. I'm not saying that they're not charming and fun. They certainly do give Final Fantasy something interesting and distinctive regardless of what world you're in. But I just don't really feel like there's any real point in having the bloody things in this game, aside from that little prize that kid in the one town gives us for running around the continent on top of one. Eesh, doesn't look like we have any choice but to walk through the lava. As far as I know, there's no way to learn the float spell before we get here, so we just have to go through that crap in order to get where we need to be. Okay, let's see how much attrition this is gonna cost to us. Huh. Well, that's certainly odd. I was expecting to see some indicators we were getting hurt walking through the goddamn lava. Hold on, let me research this online. Is that a glitch or something? Okay, what the hell? Lava damage was not in the original NES release of the game, and it isn't in the Pixel remaster. But for some reason it will be in the 3D remake of the game? Why? Why bother giving us the visual of an environmental hazard if lava is gonna be treated like regular water? Environmental damage has been a thing in this series since the absolute first game. They should certainly know how to do it in the third game, that's for sure. It just feels like such an odd thing for me to be complaining about, especially since the game gave us no warning and did nothing to help us prepare for walking through a cavern with lava all over the place. Hell, I'm glad I don't actually have to deal with that kind of attrition. It's just got me pretty confused here. I'm also kind of baffled why they decided to give us a recolor of the bombs that doesn't even vaguely look like a sentient fireball anymore. Ugh. Anyway, if we just gained an ice sword in the middle of a lava cave, I'm sure that'll be helpful. Huh. So walking under that lava fall did damage to us, just like walking on a waterfall can hurt us earlier in the game for some reason. Yeah, that's kind of confusing. Seriously, I have no clue how I'm supposed to take this dungeon. At all. This is for the second crystal, and we got the first crystal pretty damn fast. We're going after a villain who legitimately managed to trick the good guys to help him get what he wanted, and he's going after the fire crystal now to enhance his powers further. But this villain was only introduced to us in the previous clip, and when we're done with him, we're never gonna see or hear of him ever again until the remake. The battleground we see for the random encounters is pretty nice. Looks like a legitimate hellscape, but the creatures we're actually running into in this hellscape just don't feel like they belong in any version of hell. I can't even call them cartoony. That would imply there was some kind of consistent art direction for them. It is just downright ridiculous how much I don't like the monsters we fight in this game. It's weird. Yeah, this feels oddly easy for us to go through, considering everything we had to deal with just to get this far. Have I just found my stride in the game, or is this stage of the game easier than the beginning on purpose? Because I'm somehow starting to get the feeling that we're gonna go for a very brutal endgame when we finally reach it. It's funny how I'd probably feel less worried about that if the mid-game that we're going through felt like it did more to give us trouble. Does that mean that I have something against difficulty spikes and would honestly prefer if a game remained easy from beginning to end? Or is there something else going on in my mind right now? Okay, nothing special in this room as far as I can see. Okay, definitely didn't take us long to reach the chamber with the crystal once we entered the dungeon. Granted, there were some dungeons from Final Fantasy I that felt a little too long for my taste, but this might be an overcorrection of that. Not that I have any clue what a happy medium length would be for this sort of thing. So, Gutsco doesn't even look like himself for this fight for some reason. And I've got no clue what the game was going for with this monster design for the salamander. It looks like an iffy cross between Barney and Godzilla. Only the guy has some odd fleshy boils in various parts of his body, but they aren't the disgusting kind of boils. It's just something for the sake of breaking up the purple on its flesh. What the hell? This just doesn't give me the impression of a person who's become a monster that draws on the elemental might of fire. I don't even have the feeling we're fighting against a menacing creature that happens to have fire as its theme. It feels more like we're roughhousing with some cuddly toy that someone tried and failed to make look creepy. Bloody hell, we're just tearing through this guy's health bar. Not that we know how much more you can take, but still, those are some big numbers. Well, that wasn't a big number for some reason. I'm not too sure why Carmine's hit did so much less damage than usual there. Well, Brett was nearly taken out. I suppose that was a bit concerning, but otherwise, yeah, that was a very smooth ride in our favor. I did not feel all that concerned at all taking out the salamander that used to be Gutsco. Kinda disappointing considering Gutsco pulled off something that genuinely made me interested in that minor character. It certainly feels like a missed opportunity to me. I probably didn't need to use so many potions there. I could have used some high potions or just waited until we got back to the Dwarven village to heal. Ah well. Oh dear, the ranger class is the archery-focused one. I doubt I'm gonna want to use it much, if at all, and it's certainly not gonna get any use in the remake when we get to it. Not when I'm sure the remake is gonna have an ammo system that works the same way as the PSP version of Final Fantasy IV, which, yeah, I was not a fan of that. The Thief is another class that feels kind of underwhelming at the moment, sure. It was one of the starter classes in Final Fantasy I. You could choose to have one in your team that would grow into the amazing ninja class later on. But I just don't see how it would really add much to our team composition, other than the ability to steal items from various enemies. The Scholar class is a gimmick class that is only especially useful against the absolute next major boss, the guy in the floating castle in the desert. Really, the only class I like from the batch that we just unlocked after defeating the Salamander was the Knight class. One that allows for frontline fighting and some basic healing magic. I'm sorry. Did that random civilian that managed to find us in this cave die seconds after telling us to use the Scholar class to fight against the next boss? I'm pretty sure that the whole class system thing should not be public knowledge. And how was he injured? How did he come to this spot in particular at this specific time? Is it because he knew that we would be here? Or did he just get lucky and manage to hold on to life long enough to give us all the relevant information? I swear, this game is in such an awkward middle ground. It wants to be a more interesting story than the original Final Fantasy could pull off, but it doesn't want to really flesh things out to the degree that Final Fantasy IV and beyond would do. Oh good god, I just realized something that makes using the Scholar class feel significantly less tempting for me. In this version of the game, they are just not allowed to use any form of magic whatsoever. If you wanted to do elemental damage as the Scholar, you need to change what books he's holding as he does a regular attack. And if you make the Scholar your healer, oh dear god, you're fucked. It just feels like such a natural for a magic-focused class, but they don't for some reason. This means that absolutely every class we gain from the Fire Crystal is physical in some way or another, with the Knight having some magical talents. Good god, of the standard elements used in various fantasy stories, fire is usually among my favorites. It might not be my absolute favorite in every game that has an elemental system, but it's generally pretty close to the top of my list, hence my username. I suppose the Knight helps prevent the Fire Crystal from feeling like a total waste of time, but still, yikes. Wait, what? The ice horns are back where they're supposed to be? I thought we were supposed to put them there. Why would... Ugh, it probably isn't actually worth asking about, really. Just another thing for us to ignore and move on from. Apparently, I'm in no hurry to go to the storeroom that the dwarf mentioned and weirdly moonwalked towards. Why did that dwarf feel the need to moonwalk there anyway? Anyway, excuse me for fast-forwarding through what's left of this clip. It doesn't look like I'm going to be doing anything worth paying all that much attention to for the moment. Seriously, why am I not going down there to grab the free chest of items that we've earned at this point in the game? It's just kind of a weird decision on my part, one that I'm sure I won't make when I get to the 3D remake of this. Dear god, I am probably going to keep on mentioning the 3D remake of Final Fantasy III while we keep going through the Pixel Remaster version of the same game. It's not even like I'm looking forward to it more than the version I'm actually doing right now. It's just...